Welcome to the FIREchat with your hosts, me, Rich Rice, and the gorgeous Caitlin Weaver, here to talk about another round of interesting, financially independent discussion through real estate. Yeah, we're going to have to work on that intro.
I like that.
Yeah? Okay. All right. So we were kind of just spitballing something in the office here, and we're like, you know what? The camera's right there. Let's just turn it on. So, Caitlin, why don't we start from scratch on your? Let's go back to your analogy. So,
Okay.
pose the question again.
From a beginner's perspective, compared to an expert's perception,
I know nothing.
even better.
Okay.
So from a beginner's perspective, I think this analogy works for something that I'm learning right now, which is how to do the dang thing, which is basically like if you
I'm telling you.
Anyway.
All right, soldier boy, let's go.
Stop, that's stuck in my head. So if you or Evan, for instance, let's say you are the sensei and you hold the black belt, and everybody knows in order to get a black belt, you have to go through, I should have Googled this, let's just say 12 other belts.
Actually, it depends on the studio.
There we go. So in my studio, it's going to be 12 belts.
Okay, 12 belts.
That's a lot of colors. Who even has 12 colors? Anyway,
I think it's 7 or 8 belts.
I think it's 8.
And then they give you little stripes for like different stages of it.
Stripes, you're right. So let's say 12 belts with
I think
the stripes.
everybody at the club's going to be getting some belts here soon because I like this analogy. So
because it makes the most sense. Because what's the number one thing?
Actually, we've been working on that.
What's the number one thing that it would take to get from a white belt to a black belt? What is it in your opinion? Then I'll tell you the right answer.
Number one thing from a white to go through all the belts from become a newbie to a master? Mindset.
True. What's the second factoring thing? What's the second? You got me on that one.
The second thing, like to learn? Or like that's critical to the journey?
Critical to the journey. What does it take?
Focus of mind.
Let's think about something that's not to do with yourself. What's something that's an external factor that has to take place?
Having a good coach?
True.
Or a good sensei?
I'm just going to go ahead and say it
let's
now.
Hear it. Let's hear it.
So the number one thing that is a big factor, other than mindset, well, anybody who's getting something in life has to be strict and like persistent with their self and discipline. That's the word, discipline.
Zen AF.
The number one thing though that you're not taking into consideration, maybe not, maybe you are, is what none of us can control, which is time. In order to get from a white belt to a black belt, it takes a lot of freaking time. I don't care if you're practicing 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. It's still going to take a certain amount of number of hours, a number of belts, a number of whatever consecutively to get to the black belt.
Okay.
So I feel like time is a really big factor when you're just expecting like things to happen like this. Like,
I'm expecting that?
Excuse me. When someone is expecting that, third personally.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm not calling you out on what you're expecting or not.
I have no expectations.
Great.
I've learned in life.
But if you're a sensei and you want 25 of your peers to get a black belt and time is not on their side, how do you help them to determine that it's not the time factor that's going to hold them back, because the time has to be put in no matter what, that it's the mindset factor? Like, I don't know even where I'm going with this, but really what I was trying to say.
Let's back up to the karate analogy here. So, if we looked at it from like real estate as a curriculum essentially of things you need to learn and steps you do, and you can escalate through those or grow through those belts, right? so I don't know where we're going with this, but like I think the reason we jumped on here originally was that we started to kind of talk through this a little bit, and we're like, oh, this is it's probably a good discussion. Let's jump on the camera here. And because we used we were talking about this earlier, and we used a baking a cookie analogy, and then she brought up which was her analogy, and then she brought up this karate one. I was like, oh, that's maybe a little bit easier. We were trying to like make the analogy with a cookie, and instead of the cookie, maybe we'll use the karate thing. So, but I think it's a really good analogy because we've actually been talking about doing something like that with the club. Not belts, but that'd be kind of cool. Actually, I just don't think people would actually do it. But maybe we could do something with belts. That'd be cool.
Championship belts,
But
like UFC.
Yeah, that's like your WWF. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Actually, maybe. Put it on the list to look into. We'll go write that on the ideas outside. Because all they do, so this RIA out in Ohio, ORIA, does a various like they have they call it the Ohio Professional Housing Provider Certification. Okay. And it's like this curriculum of courses. It was actually that big yellow thing you saw on my desk, and you were like, what is this? It was like about that thin. It was about that long. And it's a certain level of courses that you go to at different, and you can go to different RIAs. You don't have to just go to a RIA. It's like it's certified courses, like through, not courses, they are courses, that you go either like, take a house on, or take a class on, rental laws or property management techniques or, fair housing providers or Section 8, whatever. Like, it's not to become a professional property manager, housing provider. So there's classes on like, there's stuff on, being a good landlord and not being a slumlord and providing good housing and taking care of your tenants and all that stuff that goes into it. Because the organization's basically trying to create housing providers that are, good for the community and that people like having, housing, and like the good landlords, basically how to be a good landlord, right? A good housing provider and not just the bare minimum to cash flow that honestly gives landlords a bad name. But anyways, not really the part of our discussion here. This is, but I wanted to give you kind of like a similar thing to that, but marry it to kind of what we're talking about here with the belts. But we kind of got on the topic from FIREfast, which is our boot camp program that's been designed to get like a contract, get a deal under contract in 6 weeks. That's the goal. It's not really like how to like do everything about real estate investing in 6 weeks. It's how to get the contract, get the property under contract in 6 weeks. So, I mean, I would really say it's almost like getting the white belt. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm. Getting the first belt.
Yeah, getting that first belt. And that first belt is getting it under contract. Yeah. That's really step one, is learning how to talk to sellers, learning how to, negotiate, how to run the numbers, and then getting that under contract, getting that signature on the contract at a price that is doable for investors. Now, that's the one trick pony approach. That's the hammer, as some people call it. I know Vina and like Bill Cook, they call it the hammer. That's the hammer approach. You do the 70% off the ARV and then subtract your repairs, and then bam, you basically, like I said, that's it. You throw it down on the table and and there's a lot of ways to do it, but that's like the first step to get you in it. There's subject to, there's, all this other creative ways to do things, and other ways to find deals, but that's the step one, I guess. That's the white belt. So, did that answer your question? Or was that a good analogy?
Did I have a question?
I don't know.
Yes.
Well, yeah, we kind of got off on that from That sounded dirty. We came off of that, off your question.
That sounds
worse. Okay. We might have to edit that one out. I'll leave it in. We're supposed to have fun, right? So,
what he's trying to say is, yes, like, I think that's a good first analogy for the white belt is we're researching which. What's this?
Sorry, I didn't mean to distract you. I was trying to do it nonchalant.
What's this?
Didn't work.
Like, what even is the belt that we're getting? And I think that's a good, that like puts it into perspective more. Starting this journey is you're not even earning the belt until you do that. Like right now, we're just searching for the right dojo and the right sensei to learn from, which ultimately in the end is going to be ourselves, which is providing the education that we want, if that makes sense. So we're deciding to be in this class. We're deciding to do this boot camp. We're deciding what to do on our day-to-day basis. We're deciding every single decision that we make in order to get the belt. So some are training harder than others, and some are coming down with the hammer.
Well, and some like what I meant to bring up, or wanted to kind of go into, you said how many belts or like what color the belts are. It depends on the studio. So, which also it depends on who you learn from, as far as what you want to do and to get into real estate. Like some dojos, like they you start with a white belt, and that's the other ones you start with no belt, and the white belt's the first one.
True.
And that's like once you do whatever you got to do to get the white belt. And then other ones they'll put like tape around your belt. I'm sure that's pretty common, but they put tape around your belt to like different levels, different stages of each belt. You're like a master white belt or a master blue belt or orange belt or whatever. And you get different, depending on whatever things they set. But you're right. Like it depends on what you want to learn. I think this Firefast boot camp was designed to really, like when we said, we're more of the flipper wholesaler mindset. Okay. That's how we started. That's me, Jim, and Evan all started that, especially Jim and Evan. That's I think where their mindset was, as far as like when they said get a deal under contract in 6 weeks, that was direct from a seller, using typical wholesale tactics. It wasn't, go buy an Airbnb on the MLS. That's probably not what they meant. Doesn't mean you can't do it. But that's for the 6-week focus of this program. I think that they really had that more of that first mindset, that first idea. And that is the hardest. That I think is the hardest. Sub 2 is subject 2 is, it depends. It's been hard because of the way the economy was. So it was a hard sell on somebody that could just, sell their house pretty quick for a decent profit. For them to just walk away and take some cash for their mortgage was a tougher sale. Now that the market's dropping and people can't sell their house that fast if they need to go, like they can't, and they're just maybe not have the equity to take a cash sale. Subject 2 is becoming more of a possibility. So, but anyways, I think we kind of got into this. So like, what's that white belt look like? And right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to get that white belt would be, in real estate in general, is to get that deal under contract directly from a seller. And I think you were asking me, like how we kind of started doing this, was that you were asking me like do you remember what you were asking me?
I think the main thing I was trying to get addressed is, yeah, once we get that white belt, like then what is it going to take to get that black belt? Or maybe we shouldn't shoot for the black belt. You're right. Maybe we should just shoot for the next belt. But
I think the black belt comes with time. Like that's the ultimate
yeah, that's
goal,
what I was trying to get at is like,
you know.
it's going to take a lot of time,
But I don't think
a lot of things.
you know, it's funny is like you know, as I could see that, like looking at some of us and saying like, oh, they're black belt. Like I don't know if I would say that I have a black belt. I don't know if I would say that Evan has a black belt. Or Jim for that matter. I would say Andy probably has a black belt. I would say Evan is okay. Let's put it this way, because in karate, there's usually like degrees of black belts. Okay, usually like there's a first, second, and third degree black belt. I would say Evan he's probably got his first degree black belt, depending on the thing. I think Evan would probably. I don't know if he would agree with me or not. I think he would probably, if I explained it, he would probably agree, because I know Evan would be the first one to say that there's so much more he still wants to learn. Mm-hmm. And I don't know where that cutoff would be, like in a black belt, you know, like, because typically people think black belt and that's it, you're the master. And that's usually, again, depending on the dojo and the style of karate that you're into. It's not always the case, but I guess we're getting a little technical here. But I think I know I got a ton to learn still. I don't know what belt I would put myself at, but if we came up with a system, you know, I don't think I'd be white, but I don't think I'd be black either. But
maybe blue.
I think blue is like,
just kidding.
I think the studio
Maybe
that I was in, I
purple.
think it was brown belt before you got your black.
Yeah, it's purple, brown, black, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, your purple belt. Maybe it was purple, brown, purple. I don't remember. You know, we've done a lot, but we're definitely capable of teaching that white belt. Is like all of us are definitely capable of teaching that white belt and many belts above that. But I think to get that white belt is getting that thing under contract, and then from there you can learn, you know, anything. Like and you can do anything with the property. That's the greatest thing, is like you learn how to get it under contract from scratch. Your options are wide open. You can flip it. You can hang on to it. You can, you know, whatever it is you want to do from there. The money, you will find the money. You will find the contractors. You will get the EMD. Even if you don't have nothing, you can get the EMD. And you can back out. Ultimately, you have the inspection period that if you need to, and you put it in your contract correctly, which is a big deal, you have the ability to back out of that deal if you absolutely have to. But as long as you get it under contract with that 70%, or, you know, whatever, it just varies. But, you know, at certain times, 80% is a good contract. It's just right now, you know, 70, 75 is, again, that's the hammer method. But, you know, certain people can do up to even higher, you know. Mm-hmm. Like if you were an agent, and you're going to go through the whole process and flip it, you could give yourself another 2.5% in that formula. So if everyone else is buying it 75%, and that's their cutoff, you could buy it 77.5%, because when you go to resell it, you could actually give yourself about 5% if you really wanted to run the numbers a little thin. But I don't know if I would. But because if you end up double ending it when you go to sell it, so typically 5% is like the average real estate. Have you heard that before?
Yeah, maybe.
So 5% is like the typical real estate commission, and that's baked into the 30%. So the 30% discount you're buying at, you're accounting for that 5% of agent fees you're going to have to pay for when you resell the property at the end of the flip, because that's the flip formula. Okay. But if you're an agent, and let's say you're an agent with a really deep pool of buyers, because you've been an agent for a long time, you can basically give that 5% back to yourself and work it into the deal, because you don't have to pay anybody now. You could sell the house and not take a commission. Mm-hmm. Or you could take the commission and it's still part of the deal. Now that 5% is going to you and not anybody else. So it makes you a little bit more competitive, So, so there's a good side to being an agent, but that also creates other technicalities in the process. Mm-hmm. So
being licensed, yeah.
Yep.
I get it.
So, yeah, but I like the analogy. I think that one's a lot easier to we could almost structure a curriculum really based on that.
Yeah, I thought that was really good insight and advice. Thank you for the input. But I going back to, like you said, always wanting to learn more, always wanting to know more. I think that's the best master, the best sensei is, even though they have gained that reward or that achievement of success, it still doesn't matter. They're still going to go for the next thing, whether that's getting the 3rd degree or I don't know. I feel like that's what a true leader does is just constantly wanting to improve every day, learn something every day. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think kind of working through this a little bit more. Yeah, Evan would definitely be like that 1st degree black belt, and then like Andy would be like your 2nd degree, and then like Pete Fortunato would be your 3rd degree. Whereas he's like the, he's like master. He's like Master Oogway,
and he still thinks he's a white belt, which is what I love about him.
Pete's like Master Oogway, just
but
sitting on his stick and
now that you said that, what's the connotation or what's the recurring thing with the ranks that you gave them? Would it be the year's experience by chance?
Well, yeah, I think experience comes with time, of course. Yeah. So going back to what you said about time. Yeah, absolutely.
So because Pete's been in it the longest, he's got the 3rd degree. Because Andy's been in just a bit longer than Evan, he's got that 2nd degree. And because Evan's been in it over 20 years, he has that 1st degree because of the time he's put in.
Well, I wouldn't quite say that. I mean, they're definitely, they go hand in hand, mm-hmm. but I wouldn't say that I guess I wouldn't say that it's relative only to time as being the only factor. I think it's time obviously allows for more deals.
No, you're right.
But if anything, it's the amount of deals and the amount of different kinds of deals which take time obviously to make them come to fruition. But that's the real, that's the biggest teacher is actually, like you said, the experience of doing it, and seeing different things and seeing different situations unfold and different seller, problems that they have or objections and overcoming stuff and and then learning from different people and that all takes a lot of time and a lot of deals.
You're right.
But I think if what I was saying is I think if you took Andy and Evan and Andy had 5 more years of experience than Evan did, but he had, only 20 deals that he'd done in 25 years and Evan had done 120.
Yeah.
In the 5 years less, I think Evan would probably win.
100%.
Yes. I don't really not win, but he'd be the 2nd degree or the 3rd or whatever.
It's more experience, even though it's a less amount of time. Yeah. I completely agree. You're right.
Yeah. There's people that have been in karate probably for years and they're still like a yellow belt.
Yeah, no, you're right.
There's this one kid that came in and he's been 6 months and he's already like an orange because he's just been crushing it.
I can't say just because someone's been in it for 5 years means they're more seasoned or experienced than someone that's been in it for 1. You're 100% right. The person could have did 10 deals in 1 year, and the person with 5 years going could have 1 deal. This is all about the action of the person. I think that's a really good revelation that I just had.
Yeah, people in this program, in 6 weeks, you're going to learn more in this program than you probably have from being around this club for the last year. You know,
I definitely have.
because it's just a massive burst of information.
Yeah.
That
It's holding, and like it's holding, if other people are holding you accountable, it's also about like holding yourself accountable. And yeah.
And to go back to what you said too, it doesn't mean that, there's not more, we said certain dojos do things a certain way. It's not just the belts, what they're teaching is, Goodwin brought this up. He might have even brought the belt thing up, but it's very similar. Like I think he called it verticals, but I don't know if he used the belt analogy, but basically the same thing. So like a vertical, like just because, one person's a master in flipping, for example, like Jim is a master in flipping. He's probably a black belt in flipping. Not probably. Jim is a black belt in flipping. But does that mean Jim's a master in creative finance? No. Is he a master in Airbnbs? No. So just because, like you said, each dojo is going to teach a different technique. You
True.
learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu versus like Krav Maga. It's totally different.
Versus karate.
Versus karate. And there's different things, like styles of karate. And, was the one that Bruce Lee taught. It was like Wing Chun or something like that. That style is completely different from the karate that I took or Taekwondo or, but it's all, but they all have the same colored belts, or similar colored belts.
Similar. Yeah. Similar.
So just because we're teaching something a certain way to get something under contract doesn't mean other things are wrong. It just means that those are a different way of doing it. And that we believe that in our style of real estate karate, that this is the best way to do it to get that white belt.
Yeah.
So
speaking of it, like you said, these techniques or whatever you want to call them of teaching and basing it primarily on flipping that equation. Like how are you supposed to basically, I don't know, like structure it in a different way? Like structure it for a long-term hold. Like what makes it make sense? Like, I don't know if I'm even asking a question that makes sense.
How do you, excuse me. Well, the biggest thing is price.
Okay.
Honestly, like because if you're going to flip it, you have to account for all of those costs, and it's short term. You don't have time for appreciation to kick in.
So
if
you can get it for a lower
unless
price,
you're in a really hot market, that's just out of control bubble. Like
I have a creative question then. So if let's say the loan on the property is way higher than the offer that you would want to put in, does that mean it's a bad deal?
No, it means that that's just you're in a short sale situation at that point. So you got to go to the bank or whoever holds the note, the mortgage, and say, hey, these people want to sell it. Typically, the bank's only going to do that if they're not getting paid, if they've been making the mortgage.
No, what if it's a private loan?
Same thing. I mean, really, like if they're making the payment, typically you really only see that if people aren't making the payment anymore. They can't. Like if they just can't make the payment, like they bought too much house and and now life's changed and they can't make the payment anymore. If you can afford, that's a good subject to situation. If the house still warrants it, typically, you might be able to rent it for create some kind of way to rent it to pay their mortgage. So if they're upside down, or if they're upside down on the loan where they owe more than
my purchase price,
than what you can purchase it for. Yeah.
Yes.
If they owe more, still, you're either looking at a subject to, which becomes very real in that situation. Because typically that, even though the payment, or even though the house might not be worth what the mortgage is on it, the payment still might work.
Yeah, I get that.
That depends.
But how do you write it on paper as far as I'm taking over?
That's a short sale.
Taking over the loan let's say at 340, but I'm only purchasing the property for 280. Or would that even make sense? Or
No.
would I have to cut the difference?
No, in that case, see, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter what your purchase price is.
It doesn't.
People get hung up on purchase price. So, but on a subject to, or a seller carry, or an installment sale, whatever, the purchase price really doesn't matter all that much. You could pay $1 million for that house. But if you break up the payments so that it's, $1,000 a month for 100 years.
Or whatever many until paid.
Or 10, whatever, then I think that's actually $10,000 a month, but no, 12, I don't know.
It's $1 million.
No, $1,000 a month for 100 years is $1 million. So I'm pretty sure. Check me. But but that's the thing. That's a great thing about subject to, and this is what Pete and a lot of Pete's acolytes and students teach is that that's the beauty of creative financing is that it doesn't purchase price isn't even really that big of a deal anymore. It's terms. It's payment terms. You could pay.
Okay.
And that's what we're doing with this house on in Blue Jay. It really doesn't.
You're right. It doesn't matter about the price right now because you're not paying it in full right now.
If he wants more, if that seller comes back. Sorry, continue. Were you done? Sorry, I kind of cut you off at the end.
Well, explain it to me like this. Like, let's say you do the payments deal and you still have to put in $100,000 into it. How do you figure in that $100,000? Are you doing it completely as a second or are you rolling it into...
That is more of yes, I would have to, to do that kind of work to it. That's just, that 100,000 is really more for if I was going to flip it, it needs 100,000 because it's just a giant ass house with big old retaining walls.
But in order for the creative financing, you wouldn't flip it, right? You would hold it.
No, if I could get seller carry, I would no plans of flipping that.
So with that in mind, I would
probably fix the foundation.
How much does that lower the 100,000 just for my
probably
perception?
To
60,
30.
50, 30? Really?
Yeah, I would maybe. I would fix the foundation and I would do it so that it's just secured. I wouldn't try and lift the house or anything. I would just fix that foundation.
For leveling, right?
Yep. I would, as long as the engineers are okay with it and I can get the permits and stuff, which I would assume is probably build another retaining wall
to
right
hold
around
up that
it.
Wall. Yeah.
And then backfill it with pressure treated cement.
Okay.
So that would secure the house so it's not going to drop more. And then I would go into that room that had that slope and I would probably build it up with plywood or
the
some
floor, right?
and level from the inside so I didn't have to lift the whole house up.
You could just level the flooring. Like if it's like this, you could just add boards.
Exactly. So you just kind of bring it up so it's level. It might create an issue at some of the doors and you have to, that's all solvable. And then I would probably, because the house is rentable for the most part. The 2 units are pretty much rentable.
Lots of parking,
They
lots
probably
of
need
space.
They probably need some paint, a little bit of paint here and there, but as is, they probably are rentable. It's just that that massive foundation issue is scaring everybody, and for good reason.
It's a big house that could.
That's a lot of house, and that's not going to pass FHA or conventional. Like people aren't going to be able to get a loan on that because
I saw the water heater.
Even conventional, conventional, you gotta, you can buy stuff that's questionable sometimes, but a big ass foundation issue like that, I don't know if that would pass conventional. The bank might, appraisal might look at that and just go, nope. But anyways, so in that type of house, but that would factor in. So I factored that in already. Like when I came up with that payment that I could put $50,000 down, I think it was $2,500 a month. When I came up with that payment, I was factoring in that I was like, okay, I'm leaving about $500 worth of room that I could pay a second note if I needed to. If I need to go borrow the $100,000, I could probably get that $100,000 at a $500 or somehow. I have that $500 or $700. I have a little bit of room so that if I need to go get more money, I can on a second.
On that room,
I have room in the payment between the between the
Cash flow.
cash flow. Yeah, between the
But
the
are you
incoming
still
rents.
netting? Are you still netting yourself some money, or are you just maxing it out?
Yeah, because I was figuring like
gross.
that thing would rent for like $4,500 a month,
And you're giving 25, factoring another 5, and then
and leaving some a little
netting,
bit of room and netting about $500 a door.
which is
hopefully.
1,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
No, that's good to know.
So, yeah. So that's how I did that one. But what was good about that though, let's say that seller comes back and says, "No, I want you to pay more for the house." Okay. Sure. Give me 5 more years on the loan. I'll pay more for the house. I'll just
'Cause
keep
it
making that
will
payment
be
for 5 more years. Does it mean I get less money? Of course. But am I still happy because I know that 15 years from now, if I add 5 years of payments to the end of it, that my rents are probably going to go up. Are the rents going to go up in 15 years?
Yes, and then probably the equity will go up. Yeah.
Will the equity go up in 15 years?
Yes.
Exactly.
So
So at
either
the
way,
end
it's
of
a
15
win-win
years-
for you and him. Yeah.
Yeah. So as long as you get the
So-
payment you want, it's like the reverse of buying a car. It's like they're always pounding you on the payment, right? Like what's your payment? What's your payment? What's your payment? It's like the opposite of that, where it's like you're actually focused on the payment and you're looking at it going, this is what the house can support, and I could be happy at this, figuring in maintenance and all that. And then I don't really look at, to answer your question though, is like how that repair cost figures in, as far as like an ROI. I have the calculators and Excel sheets to do that for me. I haven't done it off the top. I don't do it really off the top of my head. I shoot for $500 a door, and after everything, and that's in the market that I usually play in, and the prices that I usually play at. It's, that's I'm good. I'm okay with that because I know that that'll just work. Mm-hmm. So, and anything above that's just even better. So, but it's all about the payment. It's all about the terms. If you can get those terms, it doesn't matter what you paid for the house. Like I said, you can pay $1 million over 67 years. And as long as you got that payment worked out, doesn't matter. I mean, you can't depreciate it off your taxes past 27 and a half years, but oh well, you figure it out then. You 1031 it and do, who knows? I mean, that's a problem for 27 and a half years down the road.
Yeah.
So, does that make sense? That's your question? Mm-hmm. What else you got?
Well, I'm just trying to figure out, like, let's say the loan is $360 or $340, and it needs like $150,000 to $200,000 worth of work. Like, does that even behoove me to long-term hold something if I'm gonna have a higher payment than the cash flow? Like,
if the guy wants 360,
yeah. No, I would take over the loan. Loan's
360.
360, but I wouldn't want
but
to.
it needs 100,000. Okay. Let's look at
And
the math.
ARV
So
is
how much is the payment?
475. That's the info I don't have.
So,
But it was 3.1% at 300 and
we got our calculator.
it was
My phone over
3.11
there. Can you get my phone over?
from
So this right here is where I want to figure out, like, how do I turn on like a little like pad right here, like a little tablet that I can write on and record it as I'm doing it, so people.
so
can
it'll
see
go
what
on the screen.
Yeah, like have a little document camera. See the document cameras over there? Like have it plugged in, ready to go, so I can just like drop it right here and with a notepad and write it down, or like I can focus on my phone.
That's a good idea.
So what were we saying? So it's $360,000
yeah.
is the still the balance on the loan, and it's a 30-year mortgage. The payments or the interest rate was what?
Let's say 3.25. I don't know if it's a 30-year.
Most of the time it is. So we'll just assume for for argument's sake, that's a $1,566.74. So $1,500 and some change payment. Call it, we'll round up, $1,600. So $1,600 payment, and we're trying to figure out if getting that subject to is worth putting $100,000 into. Is that the question? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, teach me about how renovation loans work. How much is the term usually, and how much is the interest usually, and how fast do I have to pay it back? Or can I get it longer than a 10-year, or can I get it the same term?
Well, so you're talking about, it's almost like a BRRRR. Have you heard of BRRRR? It's buy, rehab, rinse, repeat, I think or not rinse, sorry. It's rent. Buy, rehab, rent, repeat.
That's pretty much what I'm talking about, yep.
So, but you're throwing in an element, typically that's using cheap bank financing, getting 3%.
This is actually a private.
This is with the sub 2 is what you're saying.
And so I don't know if it's
so you're going to take over this guy's loan, but it needs $100,000 worth of work. And for argument's sake, we're just going to figure that this guy, or the seller, doesn't want anything extra on top because his house needs $100,000 worth of work.
I hope he doesn't. I hope he just wants to
let's
sell
just figure
it. He just needs it sold. Let's just say that.
For argument's sake. So you basically work backwards. Same thing with instead of looking at an ARV because you want to hold this long term, right?
Yes.
What will this house rent for?
Well, I want to do 2 units minimum, and I want to do 19.
The 100,000 gets you the 2 units?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I think.
So how much could those 2 units rent for together total?
They're both 1,000 square. They're both 1,100 square feet. So with 1 bed, 1 bath, 2 bed, 1 bath, more like 1s. I would say 17 to 2,000.
17 to 2,000 each. Okay. So pick a number.
And I'm probably not gonna have split utilities, so I'll probably have to factor in the utilities. So let's just say 2,000 each.
With utilities.
With utilities, that's only trash, electric, and gas, and water.
You're paying those?
Yes.
Okay. Let's say for the 100,000, just for the sake of this equation, let's say for the 100,000, you're going to split the meters. Okay, you're going to have.
That'd be great.
You're going to have.
Oh my gosh.
You're going to do a true ADU.
Oh my god! Can I?
Like a true duplex, and you're going to go and get the meters split. Okay.
I could even do a triplex if we're going to be getting crazy.
If it's an R3, you can.
What?
If it's an R3 lot, you can.
What's R3 mean?
So there's R1, R2, R3, R4. And those are still residential multi-units before you jump up. Under 4 units, 4 units and under is still residential.
So I could still do it with the zoning?
It depends on the zoning.
But it depends on the zoning. Okay, so I'm going to look into that more.
Yep. So anything over 4 units, pretty much anywhere in the country is commercial.
I get that. Okay, yeah, I totally get that. I get that.
So
let's just say 2.
So 2 units, they're going to split the meters. Okay, let's just for the sake of argument here. So the payment is $1,566. Okay, you're going to put $100,000 in. You think each side's going to rent for $1,700? Let's just say, without utilities or
without utilities.
Yeah, they're paying the utilities.
They have to pay the utilities.
Okay, so $1,700 times 2 is $3,400. So minus $1,566, and that is just the mortgage. That's not payments or tax. That's
taxes
not the TI.
And insurance. Yeah.
So I think $500 a month's probably safe on that. Might be a little less, a little more. So you'd subtract $3,400 minus the payment, minus the taxes and insurance also. What about my renovation loan? We're getting to that.
How much would it be?
Well, so that's what I'm saying. You have $1,300 a month, $1,334. That's what you would have left a month. So how much you want to make on this property?
Minimum $500
a door. Okay, so minus $1,000.
What? That leaves $300.
That leaves $300. You're right. That leaves $334 a month that you can make a payment with. So, what terms would you need to make a payment of $334 a month? So $334 would be your payment, negative, because you're making a payment. Oops. And your value is 100,000. Okay. How long you want to make this loan for?
60 months.
5 years? That's going to be expensive loan. You would have to pay 51%, or excuse me, sorry, that's a negative 51. So those numbers don't work.
It should be negative 100,000 positive payment. Watch.
Negative. Oop. Negative 100,000. What happened here? 100. No, you don't make the payment. Okay, so that doesn't work. So you'd have to, there's no way that would work.
It's too much.
Basically, they'd be paying you. So you couldn't make that little of a payment. So you'd need like a
10-year.
10-year first or something. So basically what that's telling you is you can't make that deal work. Your negative interest rate to get that payment. So you can't borrow that unless you borrow a 360, unless you get another 30-year mortgage. Yeah, unless you get another 30-year mortgage for $100,000 at a 1.27% interest rate, that payment is not supported by that house at those terms. So what that leaves you is you got to either, if you want the house bad enough and you need $100,000, you either need to figure out a way to do it for less money, or you need to figure out how you can pay more on a payment. So this is amortized.
I can pay more. This
is amortized too.
Let's give $834 a month, and I only make $500 between the two doors.
Okay. That's more doable. That's at a 360 though. Nobody's going to give you a 30-year.
No. Let's say 10 minimum.
So that's still challenging. That's at 10 years. That's a 0.2% interest rate.
That's no interest for the lender. So there's nobody.
So the other way to do this is 100,000 is a lot to carry is a big rehab to do that much. So you either have your own cash sitting around that you can, because you're basically, if you're getting into this deal for a subject to, and the guy just wants you to take over his payment and give him nothing, you're into this property for free. Still free, right? Did you put any money out to get into that property other than escrow charges? Maybe $5,000.
Still need to just make sure on the payment. I don't know about
the other thing. There's a lot of options here. Because if you got a seller, I don't care unless the thing's burnt to the ground. And even then, if he wants to just give it to you, no, that probably wouldn't work. But
you're taking a burden off the seller.
If you could get a property that is rentable or doable. Again, this depends on your buy box. It depends on your goals and what you're trying to get. But if you can get this property for nothing, except taking over a payment, and you could theoretically, even if you could get this payment to $1,300 a month, because that's how much it was, right? $1,300?
Yep.
Okay, let's make that the payment.
I'm giving someone 9% entrance.
$1,300. Hang on, let me finish. Even if you could get this do this deal, which this looks more doable, right? That's a 10-year loan at 9.6%. Somebody can make a 9.6 return.
Let's say I put in $20,000 of my own money, though.
Hang on, let me finish the thought. If you could get this property for nothing, for $5,000 in closing costs, okay, get this property transferred over.
Closing costs, yeah.
Get the property for free. Put $100,000 of it that you borrowed from somebody else. So you have nothing in this property but $5,000. Okay? And the bills are covered.
Yeah.
Okay? It may not be cash flowing immediately.
But immediately
being the
key
term.
Years.
It's not cash flowing immediately, but you got into a full property with $5,000 out of your pocket. Now, again, same question I had for you earlier. Are rents going to go up?
Yes.
Is appreciation going to go up?
Yes.
Where's this property? In California?
Yes.
Appreciation is probably going up historically. Okay, so in 10 years, or even in 5 years, your rents should go up 5-10% a year. So now what did we say the rents were? 2,400 was the total. Total
3,400 because 17 times 2.
Sorry, 3,400. So now, and we're just covering the bases here. So 3,400 times, let's say 5%. What is that? $150? So a year from now, you should be cash flowing $150 a month. The year after that, 300. The year after that. So by the time, sorry, they don't go 5 to 10% a year. It's like 3% a year. Depends. So it's a little less than that. So like 120-ish, but still. So
60 per door, yeah.
in 5 years, you should be now cash flowing a few $100s a month at the very least. You shouldn't really have a whole lot of maintenance for the first 5 at least years if you just redid all of this and put $100,000 into it. Depending on where it is. If it's in Crestline, there's a freaking Snowmageddon, maybe you got to do some stuff.
That's what I was going to ask you.
But the point is, though, is like if this property, which it sounds doable, could just cover the loan for the first 5 years, and then after that, you're getting cash flow and you're now capturing all the equity in the property. Hell yeah. Absolutely.
What about the holding costs for the $100,000 of work? It would just be the $1,300
Depends on how fast you got it
plus
done.
the 15.
But yeah, that's a good point.
Right?
Yeah. Well, it depends on it depends on that ADU, to be honest with you, because if the ADU is separate and you could have a renter in there while the construction's going
No,
on.
it's attached.
It's attached.
It's attached
Completely?
by a thread.
A thread? Okay. But it's separate units already. Like you're not trying to convert
No,
the
there's
space
stairs.
you're not trying to convert the space from one unit to share into the second unit. Like it's not like a big 18 or 3,000 square foot house that you're trying to split up into two 1,500 units. You're trying to build a second unit either attached to that structure or separately, theoretically.
Theoretically, no. It's like the first way. Theoretically, there's 2,000 square feet of house, and it doesn't need to be all
Okay,
in
well, yes, I didn't factor in I didn't factor in any holding costs into this.
But
That's a good point.
two,
For argument's sake, let's call the $10,000 of that $100,000 is for holding costs.
which
over-
would just
over
be the
6
two
months.
payments.
Two
right?
payments.
It'd be the $1,500 payment plus the $1,300 payment, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So
Which is $2,800. No.
yeah, it's like 3 payments.
Yes, $2,800.
So like 3 payments. I think there would probably be a way to get some kind of tenant in there to get some cash flow going. If not, then you work it out. I mean, we're getting into the kind of the nitty gritty. I think we were just kind of looking at it from more of like a white belt standpoint, but
I know, but this is why I'm bringing this to you, because it's like something I'm really interested in, but I don't know if it's worth the hassle.
well, okay, let's say
But I really want.
let's say like 5,000. Let's say that you're into it for 5,000, and you got to cover costs for, if you're ADUing it and you're going through the proper ways of ADUing it, it might take over 6 months. It could take, by the time you get permits and plans and all that, it might take a year.
But what do you mean?
You got to cover. I think the easier question would be: is there any way to leave the existing structure as is and spend that $100,000 on building a 500 square foot ADU in the back and its own structure, so that you can have tenants there while the ADU is being built?
It's not livable.
It's not livable. The house itself needs work. Okay.
But when you were saying earlier about like how it's zoned, is that still a possibility if it's zoned for multifamily to just do the 2 units in the one structure? Or
If it's zone multifamily, then you're looking at a true multifamily unit. Then you can
so I can do 2 units.
If
it's zoned,
R2,
if it's R2,
if it's R2, you can have a duplex. If it's R3, you can have a triplex. If it's R4, you can have a quadruplex. What the ADU laws changed was
You don't have to
basically
change zoning.
every single family house can have an ADU. So they can basically, accessory
Without
dwelling
changing
unit.
zoning. I
Without
get
changing
that. I
zoning,
get that.
regardless
Okay.
of zoning.
Okay.
Each single family house can have an ADU
So
now
I
legally.
started to change this to,
So-
let's say, 80,000. Let's change this to 1,000. I'm still giving them. Oh, wait.
That's you're figuring out the return. That's a 15% loan. You did it right. Oh, sorry. You didn't do it. So there you go.
Still
That's a
giving
big
them
difference.
8%. It is a big difference, whether it's 15% or 8%. But
That's amortized too. There's also
Yeah.
the other option,
Of
which
interest
we didn't really talk
only.
about, is interest only on that.
Well, that's what I was
And-
thinking too. Like after those 5 years, like you said, if it's cash flowing a little bit, and let's say I have other investments in line and I have that balloon payment, I would probably just pay off the loan. Since I'll be, if I was
You
paying
could,
interest
like
only.
if you bank the equity or bank that you could, pull, maybe you have some other, this is what people do is like they, let's say you did a deal similar to this 5 years ago. And now that one is cash flowing now and is worth a lot more. And you can take the equity out of that one to pay off this one 5 years from now or 10 years from whenever you would have the balloon. And you could take that equity now, but now you paid off the loan on that property. And you'd be paying the balloon on this one. And so you wouldn't have that payment. You wouldn't have the payment anymore. And you'd be making the $500 cash flow. That because the rents have gone up. So that's how people they basically stack the deck is you're taking equity from some people. Not everybody does this. Again, it depends on your comfort level with debt and risk and all that stuff. It's all part of it. But it's one of the strategies that can be deployed. So, but yeah, I mean, if you can get into a house for using other people's money and they're pretty much giving it to you for the payment. Yeah. If you can make that second loan work somehow, make the terms work on that and find the money. Important thing is though, is like if somebody's offering that to you, you get it under contract and you have a inspection period in there that gives you time to figure that part out, the loan part out. You don't have to know all that going into the deal. That doesn't stop you from getting it under contract and then figuring it out from there. I mean, ideally that's not something you want to do, to sellers. You don't want to tie up their property. Like you should go in knowing that like this is what you need to get and it's doable. I wouldn't just go tie up a property and it needs $200,000 of work and then like just it was never a deal to begin with because there's no way in hell you're getting $200,000 on a house that's the loan to value is going to be all out of whack and
Let's just say it's 2,052 square feet times.
the other thing we didn't talk about in there, which is
That's what I think it will probably be.
is it depends on loan to value also. So if this guy's got a $360,000 mortgage on it and you want to borrow $100,000 against it and you're adding an ADU, that property 360, that's 460. That property is probably got to be at depending on what your lender lends at, that house might be needs to be able to appraise after you build that ADU. That house has got to appraise anywhere around like $600,000 to be at a certain percentage of LTV to loan to value.
What is that percentage for loan to value so I can?
It depends. That depends on the lender.
So what's a strict lender's loan to value? What, 70%, 80%, 60%?
I don't, honestly, I haven't done a deal like that, so I'm not really sure.
Okay, because
I want to say it's like most lenders are probably going to want you to be at like 60, 70% LTV to lend that kind of long-term money on a deal that the house really isn't worth that yet.
It's not even appreciating
It's
that
gotta
yet.
it's gonna be worth it after you're done, and you probably need the track record a little bit to the lender's probably going to want to know, or you're going to pay out the ass in points and
just to get that,
get the loan.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean, but that's the type of thing. Like if you ever got a deal like that, you know, and you got something like that under contract, you know, there's, I mean, just in the club alone, there's people that you call and structure a partnership with them.
That's why I was going to ask you. I'd probably have to partner on this deal for funds and I would
not just for funds. I mean,
split
just
the cash flow too.
Even, yeah. I mean, if it was somebody like, you know, that's probably what they would want. If they're going to bring all the funds and the rehab experience, like they're going to want half the deal.
Yeah.
And that's cash flow and equity. Like that's probably what most people would probably want for that. Or, you know, you sell the contract. You know, if that's a deal and there's a deal to them that, you know, you sell that contract to them for $30,000 cash right now, they write you a check for $30,000 and they get to deal with the headache instead of waiting 5 years to make $100, $150 a month, or, you know, and then the equity play maybe later that's not guaranteed. A lot of people take the check, you know, and a lot of people think people that take that check are stupid. But I've taken that check. I've taken that check many times, and I'm happy I took that check. I mean, of course, there's some deals out there that I wish I could have held on to, but at that certain point in time, like, yeah, we had bills to pay, you know, so that's not a bad play either. But yeah, just getting that seller that's willing to make that deal that's the tough part.
Yeah, there's some more things I'll find out. Might as well try.
Yeah. Where is this fantastic property?
You don't want to know which one I'm talking about, to be honest.
Wait. This is one of mine?
Oh, shit, my bad. No.
No, I was trying to think of like which one you were talking about, but then I was like, 3,000 square. Yeah. No? All right. Well,
it's the one we went to. It's the one I took you to, so I need to figure out the particulars.
Oh. Yeah. Did he say he was willing to carry?
He said the lender is willing to carry. He's not the lender. He has a private loan. He said
Did you find out terms?
Might
Did
be
you
a
know what terms were?
No, I'm going to call him tomorrow and find out.
Shit. Yeah, you know what? That's a guy that might.
The only reason
Honestly,
being is
he
because
might.
I would be taking his situation.
Yeah, he's going to
away
lose
from
money.
him
He tries to sell that house, he's losing money.
He's been with this situation for over a year, and he hasn't done anything.
I thought this was all theoretical. And
no, this is real. This is really real. This is real. Like, I've been thinking about this for a really long time.
All right.
About a week now. But I'm going to call him tomorrow, find out the terms of the loan, write up the contract, get his email, send him the contract.
Make the offer.
Yeah. I'm sure he's getting many offers, but
well, so in that case, you can ask him because he's the listing agent on his own property.
Yeah, he's the owner. Yeah.
So you would have to ask him like, "Hey, I want to make you an offer, but I realize you're the listing agent, so you can either double end it and
just get paid off,
and like you could either double end it, or I'd rather just write you a contract on, or like make you an offer with my contract to you directly as the owner, and not complicate it, which is ideally what you're going to want to do." Because you don't, he would probably be okay with that because in that house, he probably does not want to double end it because it's in such.
He would be at the integrity of his license.
Exactly.
Yeah. So here's what I was thinking. Yeah. Because I don't think anyone else would even want to touch this house because I don't know. You saw it. Like, I just have a feeling if it's not a local that gets in there,
you know, for the
like, I really
idea
want
you just had that.
I really want that. Yeah, like I had to make sure the numbers worked. I'm going to look at the zoning right now.
Mm-hmm. Because, yeah, I guarantee you people aren't going to
come up with the creative. They're looking at it's not even.
Does he have the biggest question? The biggest question you need to find out. Maybe you already do. Is it a long-term loan that he has?
That's what I need to find out.
Or is it a short-term loan that he is already up against and he's in rough shape if he doesn't get it?
That's pretty much I was
Because if
thinking
he's in rough shape and he does up against it, that's when you make the straight cash offer for rock bottom dollar.
but it wouldn't give him. It would leave him like 60,000 under the loan value, if that makes sense. So I was willing to just offer the
He's
sub
probably got a
to-
personal guarantee on it, honestly. So if he, it's either he's going to lose it all. I guess the lender can foreclose. I mean, that's either the lender's.
He's still paying on it. He's losing. He's bleeding out right now. I know he's paying it, and I know he's bleeding out.
Yeah.
But I don't know how long he's agreed to pay it, and I don't know what the payment is.
You need the terms. You need the loan
I need
terms.
the terms. I need to.
Yeah, just find out what the loan. That'll tell you a lot. Everything else is theoretical. Just find out the terms.
Yeah, I've
And
been
then
like
go from there.
sitting on this for a little bit about how to approach him because he was the one that like I had on speaker and he's just very like antsy about it. I feel like he's worried, and I feel like
I'm sure that is a massive.
That's a massive property.
He's got
It's
got
a
lots of
very big house. It needs a lot of love and a lot of TLCs.
He's way in over his head.
He's way over.
That house has got.
But that's why I kind of want to come in and try to relieve some of the pressure a little bit, like just creatively, like if it makes sense, if the 100,000 even makes sense. That's the biggest thing I'm worried about. I know the deal would make sense sub 2. I just don't know if it makes sense with the amount of work that it needs because it is severe. It's severe work that needs to be done. It's a complete roof. It's complete siding. It's complete foundation.
It's crazy
complete
that
deck.
he started like redoing the kitchen without doing the roof.
The outside. Yeah, the outside. Like I was like,
what are you doing? Like,
you don't even start on the cosmetics until the roots are
Although,
built.
you know what? I didn't really see.
The foundation was fine. It was the deck.
No, that thing had issues.
Well, no, it was.
But I didn't really see any. I mean, I saw evidence of water. I don't remember. Was there like water actually physically inside?
Yes.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, so there was. The roof was.
We couldn't see the roof shingle. Like.
Yeah.
We saw that it was like 3 layers.
Yeah. Word to the wise: if you start rehabbing a house up in the mountains during the winter, and it needs a new roof, put the roof on first, like as soon as possible, like before you start trying to redo the kitchen.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't until like kitchen cabinets yet, but like
he was demoing the kitchen.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the house was demoed, and like electrical work had been done already. Like new electrical had been done,
and
like outlets and stuff, but like he still didn't have a roof on
the windows.
And it's like start with the roof, especially. Just start with the roof. Like if your roof's shot, start with the roof.
No, yeah. So I'm like,
I mean, I guess I can't really.
You can't say that.
I can't really say that. I have a rehab going on where stuff's getting done and the roof's not done.
And you're doing the roof last.
That's purely weather at this point.
That is weather.
That is purely weather.
But the roof isn't leaking in certain places.
Yeah, I know where
the roof was leaking.
Yes, I know where it's leaking.
Then you would patch it, or you would do something, or you're figuring it out as you go.
Yeah,
so that's great advice, and I'm gonna try to help this person
I've been
out.
trying to do the roof for 2 months. It won't stop freaking snowing. So.
Yeah, and we have another storm going on right now. Anyways.
All right. My butt's hurting in this seat.
Okay.
I've been sitting in it all day. But
great talk.
That was an awesome talk. That was a fantabulous talk. Fantabulous. Well, Caitlin, thanks for coming on the show again.
Thanks, Rich.
This has been an episode of FIREchat, kind of.
I think it's been great having a real life like idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
And literally, I'll tell you guys about the situation later once I resolve it. That's for
Absolutely.
sure.
Well, we'll bring you back and we'll get the
we'll bring it back.
We'll
see how it goes. And I appreciate the advice and the input and look forward to...
I appreciate the questions. Thank you for bringing...
Look forward to where we'll be in 3 weeks.
Absolutely. Well, tune in next time. If you want to check out the Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club, you can go to IEREIC.org. That's IREC.org. And you can become a member just for $25 a month. And if you want some extra guidance, extra education and stuff, we have programs available like this FireFast program, that boot camp that Caitlin is in. And we got a lot of exciting things coming. So check us out, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
See you soon.